So I'll be talking on management of different types of ocular bonds in acute and initial cases. So I have no financial interest to disclose. Okay, regardless of the underlying chemicals involved, common principles of management include removing the offending agent, control the inflammation, so you have to prevent the infection, then control the intraocular pressures, and you have to promote the ocular surface healing. So in all these cases, medical management should be initiated first and then go for surgical management. So first is this removing the offending agent. Immediate copious irrigation remains the single most important therapy for treating chemical injuries. Ideally, the eye should be irrigated with a sterile, balanced buffer solution such as normal saline solution or Ringer's lactic solution. If you don't get any sort of ideal solution, you can use this tap water also. The irrigation solution must contact the ocular surface. Sometimes patients are just just not opening the eyes, and just assistants are putting the eyes on the eyelids, this water on the eyelids only. So this should be avoided, and this is best achieved with a special irrigating tube. You can use this Morgan lens, or if you don't get any Morgan lens or like that, you can use some topical anesthetic eye drops and then put a slit speculum, and then irrigation should be continued until the pH of the ocular surface is neutralized. Usually, you should go for at least 1 to 2 liters of fluid, and at least for 30 minutes. Then the severity of the burn we should assess now, and that burn depends on the surface area of contact, depth of penetration, and then concentration, and then time of interference since contact, degree of limbal stem cell injury. And usually the common areas of damage are anterior segment of the eye, internal segment of the eye, cornea, conjunctiva, and the lens. So we have to control the inflammation, as because inflammatory mediators released from the ocular surface at the time of injury causes tissue necrosis. This inflammatory response not only inhibits the epithelialization but also increases the risk of corneal ulceration and perforation. So controlling inflammation with topical steroids can help to break this inflammatory cycle. And intensive topical corticosteroids has for decades been one of the mainstays of the treatment, and it remains as such. A potent corticosteroid eye drop such as dexamethasone 0.1% should be started from the day 1 and administered topically on a 1 to 2 hourly basis, not 3 times or 4 times like that. For severe inflammation that is not controlled with topical intensive corticosteroids, you can go for systemic corticosteroids, which can be also considered. Suppose patients are having severe scleral ischemia or anything like that, we can go even use these systemic corticosteroids. There is no increased risk of corneal melting with concurrent use of ascorbate or in severe clinical ocular burns. So if you give this topical ascorbate, or even if you can give this oral ascorbate vitamin C, then there is very less chance of development of corneal melt. So we have to promote this ocular surface healing. We have to epithelialize the cornea, which is a challenge in both acute and chronic cases. Topical ocular lubricants are essential for maintaining a moisturized ocular surface that facilitates the epithelialization of the cornea, and that way it maintains a moist ocular surface is also important to prevent the risk of further epithelial breakdown. It is important to use these preservative-free lubricants to avoid preservative-induced epitheliopathy. So we have to promote ocular surface healing. We can use this autologous peripheral blood serum, that is, and then umbilical cord serum and platelet-rich plasma have also been reported to accelerate epithelial healing. And in a double-blind prospective randomized control trial of patients with acute ocular burns of varying severity, eyes receiving this umbilical cord serum had a significantly lower mean time of complete epithelialization and reduced limbal ischemia and better corneal polarity than patients receiving autologous serum 20% eye drops for artificial tears. So in that study, it has been found that umbilical cord serum is quite helpful. We have to promote corneal stromal healing. So initially, first we have to use this corneal epithelial healing, now corneal stromal healing. That inflammatory cells release matrix metalloproteinase and then collagenase and stromalysins, which will be just accelerating this collagen breakdown. There is a strong evidence for the role of tetracyclines and citrate in suppressing the release of proteolytic enzymes and in scavenging free oxygen radicals that are released in chemical injuries. Doxycycline is also responsible for inhibiting matrix metalloproteinase 9 activity and supports the ocular surface integrity. Most conventional medical therapy for acute chemical injuries include an oral tetracycline such as doxycycline 100 milligram once daily, at least for 2 weeks, and you can increase up to 6 weeks. And then intensive topical sodium citrate drops at least 4 times a day. Promotion of ocular and corneal stomal healing that can be done by significant reduction by this vitamin C also. It has been found that this in alkali injuries, because this alkali penetrates into the anterior chamber, and that is that's causing this decrease in the level of vitamin C from the aqueous humor, in the aqueous humor, which is secreted from the ciliary body. So that vitamin C is reduced because it is reduced. It will inhibit this collagen synthesis by fibroblasts. The collagen, which can inhibit this collagen synthesis by fibroblasts. So ascorbates and citrates act as the cofactors for collagen synthesis, which are needed for the corneal stromal healing. That way, it protects against corneal ulceration and perforation. So combined ascorbate and citrate treatment appears to offer more protection against ulceration than citrate alone. And treatment with ascorbate can be both topical as well as systemic. So vitamin C drops, which is usually available as 10%, to oral you can use it, and systemic also you can use it, 500 milligram 4 times a day for at least 2 weeks. You can use it till 3 months also. Prevention of infections. When the corneal epithelium is absent, the eye is more susceptible for infections. So in those cases, you have to put topical antibiotics, which should be preservative-free, fourth generation fluoroquinolone, which are warranted to during the initial treatment stages. So preservative-free antibiotics is preferable because that will be just helping for epithelial healing. Acute chemical injury, there is a chance of rise in intraocular pressure because of collagen deformation and shrinkage, which will distort the trabecular meshwork with blockage of by inflammatory cells. An immediate rise in intraocular pressure is there. So in these cases, we should that means use these aqueous suppressants. And here we suggest to go for this carbonic anhydrase orally, because topical medications usually have preservatives that will be epitheliotoxic. So better to go for the oral carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. If it is not available, then you can go for topical beta blockers. To control pain, we have to go for that means painkiller tablets, or because of ciliary spasm, we can use the cyclophagic drops. So to summarize, topical antibiotics still defeat seal, topical corticosteroids, that dexamethasone 0.1% or piracetam 1%, 1 to 2 hourly. TR substitutes, that is preservative-free, or CMC 0.5% eye drops. Topical cycloplegics and beta blockers can be used. Topical potassium ascorbate 10% eye drops and sodium citrate 10%, 1 to 2 hourly. Oral doxycycline acetazolamide ascorbate should be given also. Now, surgical therapy, we can go for amniotic membrane transplantation, large diameter bandage contact lens, conjunctival or tenants advancement, limbal symptoms and transplantation, also conjunctival transplantation. So in chemical and thermal injuries, it is suggested that in any cases of injuries, if it, as per DOAJ classification, if it is grade is more than 3 to 6, that is grade 1 to grade 2, we can just conventional medical treatment will suffice. But grade 3 to grade 6, we have to go for amniotic membrane transplantations. And amniotic membrane transplantation can be used both as a graft, which can provide a basement membrane for epithelialization, and or as a patch, where it acts as a biological bandage contact lens. Amniotic membrane transplantation helps in ocular surface reconstructions, promotes rapid epithelial healing, and partly restores limbal stem cell function. So this is the this 8-year-old boy who came with Chuna injury. So we have to remove all sorts of this Chuna particles, foreign particles from the superior fornix. Then we have to go for double version of the fornix, and then we have to remove this necrosed material. Then after 360 degree congenital peritomy, you have to put this amniotic membrane over the ocular surface. Use this fibrin glue. If you don't have fibrin glue, then use this nylon sutures. Sorry. Then again, you have to, in all these cases, you should use this 6-0 Vicryl to tie the conjunctiva. Then put another piece of conjunctiva, this amniotic membrane over the fornicell area, and then put a conformer, and then tie to a suture tensoraphy. This is the patient. The patient didn't have any sort of symptom or anything like that. Now patient is waiting for again some slate procedure for visual rehabilitation. So if you don't have any sort of this fibrin glue, then we can use this this double lumped 40 silk or 50 proline sutures, and then you can use bolsters and then furnish formation sutures, and then that way you can use this amniotic membrane, and we can put the circumferential suture in this around the limbus, and then again you have a better result also without fibrin glue. This is the patient who had this thermal injury. This Dr. Aditya, there was no fibrin glue on that day, so he did this multi-layered AMT. First he put this amniotic membrane, and then sutured by interrupted tenon, and then put another layer. And this is the result after 9 months of AMT, and ultimately after 1 year I did this slate. So sometimes in presence of scleral ischemia, that is the blanched out white appearance of the sclera, what this I to mentioned that in these cases amniotic membrane transplantation in these cases won't suffice alone. So you have to go for tenonplasty, and the scleral ischemia along with this releases toxic substances with profound inflammation that can lead to scleral melt. So tenonplasty, it was first described by Tapping and Ream, where these tenons was used as a pedicle graft, and it is considered as a glebe-sewing procedure that helps and accelerates the epithelialization of the cornea and conjunctiva through limbal perfusion. So this is the 52-year-old man who had this molten metal injury 6 days ago, and then the surgery was done. So all sorts of necrosed tissues removed from the scleral bed. Then this healthy tenon's layer is separated from the overlying conjunctiva. Then over this directly you can put this, you can suture these tenons over this bare sclera, but here I am putting a layer of amniotic membrane just to give an extra tectonic support. Now I am suturing these tenons by using 6-0 Vicryl over this necrosed sclera. Then I am putting another layer of amniotic membrane. Then I am using tenon-nylon suture, just like in a plastering fashion around the limbus. Because on all these cases, whenever you are putting amniotic membrane, there is a chance that it may dislodge or displace. So you have to put either a suture or a circumferential suture. And we should use this tenon-nylon sutures because it is less, that means toxic, and this maintaining this tensile strength quite long. And then this cartilage of the conjunctiva is sutured with the double layer of amniotic membrane by 6-0-Ficryl, and then putting a bandage contact lens. So after 10 days, this is the picture, and after 3 weeks, we can see this amniotic membrane is getting disintegrated. Then after 6 weeks, the patients developed this persistent epithelial defect. So I started at this time, on this autologous serum, 20%. At this time, there was some sort of scleral defect also. So I thought to go for this scleral patch graft, but patient was not willing. So just patient was stick to only this autologous serum. And then after 6 months, this is the ultimate result. And now this patient is waiting for slate with this penetrating granuloplasty. So follow-up with these patients, close follow-up is required, because that to avoid this possible sequelae, corneal ulcerations with possible perforations, corneal scarring with LSCD development, secondary open angle glaucoma, conjunctival scarring or syndrome formations. As I mentioned, these patients may develop dry eye. Exposure due to lid malpositions from cicatricial complications can also be seen in these cases. So to conclude, proper management in the acute stage is most important, and that determines the long-term outcome. When the globe integrity is saved and ocular surface is stable, one can plan further surgeries for better visual rehabilitation. And based on the severity and laterality, many options are there. Glaucoma, the most common comorbidity, and need to be addressed aggressively throughout the life. Now, Dr. I must inviting Dr. Namrat Sharma for talk on this visual rehabilitation in unilateral cases. What to Dr. Namrata?